Okay, take two. Let's see if this works. Danny, I'm just going to wait for you to jump on. Okay. Oops. Okay. We're having some technical issues. Hopefully this time around we can get it to work. So bear with me pretty please if you are watching the replay. I am just waiting on the beautiful Danny to join me, and hopefully this time I can invite her on. Yay, there we go. It's adding you. Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Awesome.
I can.
Hi.
Hello.
It worked.
We got
It
it to
worked.
work.
It has to be done this way and then we'll get
Amazing.
it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, do I sound okay? Am I echoing for anyone? Or am I okay?
I'll have to see if people are jumping on. But you sound okay on my end.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm
How are
well.
you?
I'm so excited about our chat.
Me
Good
too.
topic.
Okay. So, the reason I wanted to get you on is because you do a lot of work with helping people through emotional things. So healing from, from the mind and trauma and just really going within. And I was watching this webinar the other day about mental health in adolescence, and it really just dawned on me, like, I guess we're starting to really live in this time, or times are changing so much where every time you turn on social media, it's positivity, like, everywhere, which is awesome. It's awesome. But it really got me thinking, like, it's all about being in this high vibe. Like, if you're not if you're not in this high vibe state, then you're being negative. And you've got to attract a high vibe community, because if you're around people that are feeling down or depressed or anxious or whatever, then they're like somehow lowering your frequency. And it really got me thinking, like, I mean, it sort of stemmed from, how can we sort of protect our future generations and adolescents and things like that from, like, on one hand, we want them to be exposed to it because we want them to have these beautiful coping mechanisms, and we want them to learn mindfulness and meditation and gratitude and all that. But where do we draw the line between saying you've got to be up here, like your frequency has to be up here, and you've got to have this high vibe state, versus saying it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling, and it's okay to feel sad and anxious and depressed, and knowing that there's support out there without making it, like, without putting further stigma on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important discussion, and I really couldn't think of someone better to have it with than you. So I'd love to hear your
Thank
thoughts.
you. Yeah, this is an area of passion of mine. And of course, you asked me to chat about this today or now because I was literally about to do Facebook Live and talk about this topic. And how it actually sparked for me was a good friend of mine who messaged me, and he's very attached to the gotta be goods. All I hear from this particular friend is, I hope you're okay, I hope you're well, I hope you're good. Oh, good, you sound good, that's good. It's just this good attachment.
Yeah.
And it was getting so annoying that it got to
Yeah.
the point that I felt about to say, like, just stop with the, it has to be good. Like, because it creates this
Yeah.
environment, kind of like the whole online environment, like you mentioned, where we can't show up when we're not good
Yeah.
because we feel that there's this constant expectation that when we're not, we can't be seen, or we have to do something quickly to get back to this good state. And I see it
Yes.
more
Yes.
well, there's one, I guess, the mainstream world that has this like wear your mask and pretend you're okay all the time. And then there's, I guess, the
Yeah.
spiritual community, which is like bypass the bad and get to the light by, like you said before, like meditation, and that is a bit of a problem too. So
Yeah.
there's almost this extreme, like the mainstream world mask wearing, and then the
Yes.
spiritual world bypass it all and go up to the higher chakras or whatever you want to say. And your vibe attracts
Yeah.
your tribe.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the other day, like this rejection
Yeah.
of people that aren't at that frequency. It's just, yeah, it's such a fascinating
Yeah.
kind of terrain to kind of explore. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like I said, there's sort of this fine line between saying, like, you've got to honor those parts of you, but the minute you show it and you honor it, it's like, nah, you're too negative, you're crushing the frequency, like, you've got to snap out of it, but I think there's this emphasis on, I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's morphed and it's changed. And like, the reason that I
Mm,
guess I'm so
I'd love
passionate
to
about
know.
it as well is I've experienced it as well, particularly this year. um, I was really like surrounded by these people that are like, yeah, like, feel your pain and go within and do this and do that. But then the minute you go within and you feel it and you kind of isolate yourself, or you withdraw from that like high
Mm,
up space, it's like, well, you've just got to snap out of it. Like, how can you snap out of it? Like, what are the positives? Like, what is this teaching you? And sometimes it's like, I
mm,
just want to be like, I just don't want to talk to you right now. I just don't want to talk about it, whatever it is going on. I just want to cry. I just want to
mm,
feel my pain. I just want to sleep for, a week straight. And I don't want that to feel like
mm,
I'm failing, or that I'm not honoring myself enough, or that I'm sabotaging myself because I'm trying to escape
mm,
something. You know what I mean? So it's like, how can we create a safe space, whether it is in the world of social media, or how can we break that stigma within the social media platform and teach people that it is safe to struggle and to have
mm,
days or weeks or months where you say, you know what, I'm not giving up on myself, but actually by withdrawing is my way of
mm,
honoring myself. um, rather than setting this expectation that you've always got to look on the bright side, that you've always got to find the meaning behind every shit situation that happens to you. Like, sometimes you just, like, how
mm,
do we honor that? You know what I mean? Without being made to feel like we're
mm.
shitting on ourselves.
Yeah. And I think it starts with, well, my perception is like something I shared with you in Messenger is this idea that like mental
Mm-hmm.
health actually is, or the precursor to mental health is emotional health. And I don't think the world is quite
Yeah.
caught on to that just yet. We're still at this like thinky
Mm-hmm.
mind, like, oh, it's a mindset thing. You can like, if you think it enough, or you can change your thoughts, or you reframe, it's the same thing. We make it a lesson, and we flick it to
Yeah.
the positive, and we do that really fast. Um, it's still this
Yeah.
mind level that we think we have to operate at, and it's like if you can just change your mindset, you can overcome it. um, but the world is
Mm-hmm.
not quite at the level of like, it's actually our willingness to feel our feelings, and how broadly that notion and acceptance is like created of the time and the space to feel first. um, like I feel like that's the kind of
Mm-hmm.
tipping point, because the people that are
Yeah.
like, hurry up and get to your high vibe, it's just a reflection of them. It's just because they can't stay in their low vibe
Yeah.
for very long because it's uncomfortable, or it's unacceptable, or
Mm-hmm.
it's too painful. So it's all just a reflection of
Yeah.
I guess, their reality or their, I guess, level at where they're at in their life or whatever. And then in some ways, the people that are willing to go into their like emotional selves for a prolonged period of time as well, like that's threatening to some people, because it is mirroring to them like, whoa, what if I did that too? Would I like lose myself in my emotion? Would I like, at worst, would I die? Like, I think there's this complete fear in our, as a person, as a human, in our culture, in like, if we really went into the darkness, hence why people are so freaking scared of depression. Whereas I'm like, you know, depressive feelings are actually a normal thing, but we're so unwilling to do it that we medicate and we numb out and we push it away, and we make depression a disease. It's like, what if depressive feelings were just a shadow that we had to feel, and when we fully dove into them, like, and allowed ourselves the space and time, it just dissolved. That the blackness won't kill us and we're actually okay down here. And then when we're ready, we're like, hi guys. But we're so scared of that hole that we just, no one will even go near it and like look over the edge, because I believe we're so scared that the emotion will swallow us up and we're ultimately going to die. I love that he interrupted. I have to say, because I thought my dad was going to do the same.
I've seen that quite a lot, and I think going off of that as well, like for myself personally, like I have, particularly this year, and I've talked to you about this, like I've really kind of gone down into the slumps, and for me it really stemmed from my health. And I guess there's also, like, yes, there's an emotional part of it, and then there's that mindset, which I think it's a learned thing. But if you, as you said, if you don't allow yourself to go into those dark spaces, then you never really fully understand where those things are stemming from. And you know, but for me, there was a lot of underlying, like, physiological things that were making me feel anxious and depressed, and a lot of sort of, as you guys like, if anyone watched the video that I did with Jade a few weeks ago about my test results, like, you would have seen that there's just this whole cascade of things brewing and going on in my body. And since then, there's been more things that have come to the surface. Yay. But it all impacts, you know, it all impacts. And, you know, in order for us to create those like feel good physical vibes, like, we need to nourish our body in a certain way, and our body needs to be, you know, it needs to be in this, it needs to be able to function with the, like, with the foods and the cofactors and the nutrients and all that sort of thing. So, and I guess that's where I wanted to really go with this group, is like addressing all of these aspects, because without those, like, how are we going to achieve that nice healthy balance? And for me, like, I really had to go within and go, okay, shit, like, I'm actually really unwell. Like, what does this mean? And then your hormones kind of go up and down, and you know, and I really tried to go into this space of, because I was really surrounded by a lot of like mindset stuff, which again, I'm all for it. But I feel like I really tried to, how can I explain it? It almost felt forced. You know, it almost felt forced. It was like I just couldn't get myself, I could get myself there, but I couldn't stay there because things just kept surfacing. And I felt like the more I tried to push them aside, the more they came out in a different way. So if, like you said, if you're not honoring those deep shadows and you're not willing to go there and say, okay, I'm here, let's feel each other out, like, let's just honor this and work with whatever's there. Like, how can we overcome it with the mindset?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't,
like, it's hard.
And I don't really have an answer at like, part of me does, as in, actually recently I was asked, like, when you had your diagnosis, because my diagnosis was multiple sclerosis, and people are like, when you hit that, and
Yeah.
since, like, how can you be so high vibe this topic? How can you be so happy? How can you be so okay with it,
Yeah.
etc.? And I had to stop and think, like, why have I been like this? Was I just born this way? I woke up like this? Is it my genes, that my parents have that kind of disposition, that they've been trained, like, you know, they've trained in me to be like on the positive side? Like, what actually is it? And
Yeah.
a part of me believes it's the decision. Like, I work with clients and I just say, sometimes, like, setting the intention and just deciding, like my most recent experience of pain, I just decided, I chose a date and I was like, by the end of July, I'm going to be pain free. And it pretty much to the date worked, because, and that was me, like, choosing or using, I guess, my mindset to create an outcome. So I totally believe we can
Yeah.
have control in that way, and that conviction can totally make a difference.
Absolutely.
And then the other side of me is like, man, but if we haven't gone deep enough into, like, the lessons of the emotions, like, we've just, like I said before, kind of gone to the edge of the water and, like, dipped our toe in, but we're like, oh, it's a bit scary, or it's a bit cold, I'm not going to really go in, then it still persists.
Yeah.
It's like the what we resist persists. When we haven't learnt the lesson yet, the loop just happens again and
Yeah.
again. And so
Yes.
sometimes I don't know if there's a way to just override it with our mind. Like, so I don't really have that, I guess,
Yeah.
that answer as to which one is
Well, I think
better, or not better, but
I think that answer is going to vary from person to person, because we're all in a different space. Like, some of us have, you know, really great, like, physical health, but there's just a lot of, like, maybe past trauma that they're dealing with, or maybe someone has had a really great, beautiful, like, trauma-free life, but they're struggling with health issues. Like, there's always going to be variations of people's pain and suffering, whether it's physical, emotional, mental. So I think that's going to vary from person to person. But I guess it's just, you know, like, that's what I love about reading your posts. And there's probably only a very small amount of people who I see on social media that do openly talk about their struggles and their current struggles, and not try and mask them, you know, and sugarcoat them to say, oh, it's not a big deal, or blah, blah, blah. But it's just, I suppose, creating that space where people can feel safe to go, you know what, I'm really struggling. And it's okay, because it's safe for me to be in that space. That doesn't mean that I can't have beautiful connections. That doesn't mean that I'm a downer that no one wants to hang out with or be around, you know, and all of that sort of thing. So I think it's just creating that sort of space for people, particularly in that social media setting, and particularly for the people who are really impressionable and who really are trying to find their way, and making it seem that, because as I said, for me, when I tried to get myself into these headspaces, I couldn't always stay there, because it felt really forced, because I didn't feel safe to really feel my pain and to feel my suffering, because I did have people in my life who just disappeared the moment I went into that deep space, because I don't know why, it was never discussed, but they were no longer there. So then it sort of made me feel like, well, you know, there's all this talk about acknowledging all of us and who we are and our authentic self. And it just seems to have this double-edged sword. It's like, it's just inconsistent.
Yeah.
So,
And I think,
you know,
sorry, off you go.
and it's,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no,
you're so right. And I think, like you said just before, it comes down to, like, our individual unique challenges, and then it also comes down to the unique people that, and finding the people that are willing to be there regardless. And obviously different friends feel different needs for us. And I notice, again, with my own friendship circles and family, it's like the people that have met themselves in those spaces are usually the people that are willing to be there for me, because they understand, you know, they've gone to the depths of their kind of blackness and void themselves, and so they get it. And not everybody's meant to get it, if you will. Like, not everybody's will have that
Yeah.
journey in this lifetime. And I think that's why, like, I frame it as kind
Yeah.
of a gift in the shit. Like, there's certain souls that have been gifted
Yeah.
this challenge of whether it's health or trauma, like otherwise. Um, and we, like they
Yeah.
say, that the new wave of leadership is this vulnerable leader, the people that kind of pave the way. And by
Mm.
yourself or me or whoever,
Yeah.
like sharing our realness on social media, like we're already doing it. And then when we do it, then someone else
Yeah.
has permission to do it, and then they do it. There's the
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, the line, what you touched on
Yeah.
earlier, which we can kind of go into about like where, like how, when to cap it, like how much vulnerability and
Yeah.
sharing of realness is like fine before you have to flip out of it, I guess, and go into like the good
Yeah.
vibes. But I think that
Hmm.
that's, I don't know, the old leadership used to be like, do as I say, not as I do. Like, and now it's like about
Yeah.
embodying the thing, and then people get that permission and
Yeah.
then they just do it too. So in terms of like how we create
Yeah.
change and permission, like I think it's just that, and having these real chats and having like this community that you've created, you know, or the group that I've got, like those are the safe spaces. Um,
Yeah.
and being really discerning,
Yeah.
like it comes back to our own boundaries and discernment of who can we share like our heart with, and we share our struggles with.
Yeah.
It's not a privilege that anybody everybody deserves, you know. That's the real truth, is like we think that
Yeah.
we should be able to share with everybody, but
Yeah.
really we can't, and we shouldn't. Like we have to create a space where our needs are met first, so it's like a co-creation, and then there has to be a level of trust that they can hold
Hmm.
that for us. um, I think sometimes we're too quick to just expect everybody will be that, and it's we're sorely disappointed, I
Yeah.
reckon.
Not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And I think everybody's in such a different space. And as you said, everybody has different needs. Like some people can be more fast paced. Some people do just mask it because they want to get ahead. Some people take a lot
Mm.
longer to come out of it. And that's okay. Like I don't think there's no rule book as to like at what pace
Mm.
you have to go at. It's going to vary from individual to individual. And I think it's just important to acknowledge that it doesn't matter where you are right now and like what you're going through, what kind of challenge you're going through, how insignificant it
Mm.
may seem to
Mm.
everyone around you. Um, it's
Mm.
yours, and it's you do it
Yeah.
at your pace. You know, I think that's a really important message. And I think even now there's just a lot of stuff, and this is what kind of like really got under my skin, like maybe triggered me for whatever reason, but there was just this expectation that, well, if you're not doing this, then you're not showing up. If you're not doing this, then you're letting yourself down. If you're not doing this, then how bad do you really want it? And it's like, well, hang on a minute, like
Mm.
let's put the brakes on. like like for someone like you and I who are going through a chronic illness or multiple chronic illnesses, and people can't resonate with that, which is totally fine, because unless you go through
Mm.
it, there's no way you can resonate with something like that. But to say that just because you're not going at this pace that has, I don't know who
Mm.
made up the rules to what that is, that you're not like living up to your expectations, or that you're not following through, or that your dreams just aren't big enough. Like I think there's just got to be a bit of a line there and say, well, hang on a minute, like who's to dictate what your actions really
Mm.
mean for you, and why you're choosing to do things at this particular
Yeah,
pace.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And everybody has to, like, I shared on this recently, this idea that like on their healing journey as well, people often, not always, but they often start with the physical body. Like they start with like nutrition and the physical,
Yeah.
because the physical normally throws up the
Yeah.
symptoms, and they're like, cool, I'll address that, whether it's like nutrition or like testing like you've had done, um, or like supplementation, or if it's like strength physical body, like maybe, you know, some sort of exercise program or whatever it is. So it's usually like physical body stuff. And then when people kind of, I guess, cover all those boxes and they're like, okay, those are covered, I still don't have the energy I want, or I still like am not getting ahead, or I'm
Mhm.
still like looping in a certain pattern. Like, what else can I do? And then they might,
Yeah.
I don't know, meditate. And then they're like, cool, I've calmed my
Yeah.
thinky mind. So that's awesome. But I'm still not where I want to be. And then they look for like, you know, whatever the next thing might be. They might do some like coaching or some emotional work. And then when they're doing that, then that throws up some, or brings up, should I say, like some, you know, pain in their physical body. So they go back to the physical, and we're all kind of just looping around in different like levels, I guess, of where we need to focus our energy.
Mhm.
And so it's really like a gross assumption
Yeah.
for people to be like, oh, you should be eating this. Like you said before, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I've done that for ages and it worked, but it didn't work. And now I'm working on, you know, with a psychologist or whatever your thing is. So I think it's about
Yeah.
that, like choosing your path and really backing it and being able to like say to people, hey, this is my journey. And like you said, like this
Yes.
is my prerogative,
Yes.
and kind of just really stand in your decisions and what you've chosen.
Yeah. And your priorities they're gonna shift and alter, you know, like what might be really important for you today, like you might come against an obstacle tomorrow that's going to
mm,
completely change that. So, and then it's this whole um not feeling shame or not feeling like you failed because you have to, you know, shift things or adjust things as needed. It's just honoring like, okay, well today this is what I need to focus on, and I'm not going to feel guilty about that. I'm not going to feel like I failed because I couldn't pursue this
mm,
other thing. You know, that's not to say that you're not coming back to that, or that you're not going to just like, you're not going to do it in a different capacity, but your priorities, like it's safe for your priorities
mm.
to change.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
So, but yeah, I guess I wanted people to, I wanted to just bring this to people's awareness, because as I said, it's like, I want people to know that there is that
mm,
fine line, and it is safe and it's acceptable. Like whatever is acceptable to you is what's acceptable. It's not what society or social media dictates,
mm,
you know, and it's perfectly safe to honor what you're going through, no matter how big or small it is. Like that's yours,
mm,
you know, and you deal with that in whatever capacity you are capable of. Whatever tools you have at this current moment is enough. It's what you need at this time. And just to not be consumed by this fast paced hustle, grind, like go, go, go. Like that's the world we live in. That's work. It's having kids. That's life. You know, we don't need to create that space like the minute we
mm.
pick up our phones and the minute we open our emails and the minute we're trying to just like scroll on Instagram to watch cake decorating
Is that what you do?
videos. Sorry. But you know, you don't want to feel that pressure coming at you from every angle. You know, it's safe to go, hang on, that's not for me. I'm honoring this. It doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me less determined. It doesn't make me um, you know, it doesn't make me want my
Mm.
dreams any less.
So I guess my question then
So
would be like, how do you create, like you've said a few times, like it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. It's like, if you know that's safe, then
yeah.
how could other people know that's safe? Like, what's your like opinion around, or your ideas around that? Because a lot of people don't feel safe. Like safety isn't just a thing where you can just decide and be like, I'm safe. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's a good one. I think for me it was like it didn't
Mm,
happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight. I think I had to experience those extremes in order to get to that point. I think for me I just had this like moment where I was like, enough is enough. Like, this is making me feel suffocated. This is making me feel pressured. And it was all coming from myself. And it was obviously like the people that you surround yourself with, you start to take on their beliefs and you start to take on their behaviors and things like that. And I just started to not feel like myself. And I think, yeah, it was just taking a step back and going, okay, what do I want? What am I capable of right now? And then just having this realization where, you know, like my biggest like line in the sand moment was getting sick. Because prior to that, I was like, do as I say, not as I do. And then I got sick and I really crashed. And I had to do as I say, not as I do. Like, I had to do that. And the minute I started to get opinions coming at me, I started to feel this resistance where it felt like I wasn't honoring myself. So I had to create this safety net for myself and just trust that this is no one else's journey. No one else has to resonate. No one else has to understand. But I started to just feel more comfortable in my own skin as a result. And I think that it's a tough one. I think it's a tough one because we can talk about it, but I think the best thing that we can do to create that safety net for ourselves is to really start to listen to our intuition and get away from the noise, like get away from people, get away from social media, and surround yourself with just yourself and your own thoughts, and not allow other influences to come in and start whispering or dictating, or because it's really important to learn to go, okay, well, these are mine and then these are someone else's. Like, how do you differentiate between the two? And you feel this resistance or this calm. And I think when you feel that calm and you go, you know what, like, screw it, this is what's making me feel good, even though it's not what everyone else is telling me to do or what everyone else expects me to do, but it's just really honoring that. And that's because within your skin and within your own mind and your own body, that's where you are the safest. But you have to know what's yours and what's someone else's.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's easier said than done. So much easier said than done. But
yeah, I really like what you said about taking that time to, well, you've got to discern what's yours and what's other people's. And this comes to me, my thoughts go to, it's all boundary related, really figuring out what your line is, what your yes is and what your no is. And most of us as children don't get shown really clear boundaries. So we grow up with really rubbish boundaries and constant boundary violations. So constantly people kind of stepping over our line. And then I guess we're not taught to feel. And so like what you said was amazing about like taking that time to really have the time and space to listen to our bodies and listen to what is our yes and what's our no. And I think that can kind of come back to what I said earlier about like when we do take that time to get to know ourselves in that way, that can be kind of foreign to other people or threatening to them because they haven't done that or they don't have that self-connection, or when we step out of our hibernation and we're like, you know what, that's a no, like I'm not doing that, I'm not entertaining that, I'm not like people pleasing anymore. Like they're so expecting of us to be, because that's how we were up until a certain point. And it can be really, really like different and not okay with people. It reminds me of, have you heard of or are you familiar with Dr. Gabor Mate's work? He is an amazing, like one of my gurus, amazing man and doctor, and he's worked a lot in addictions and with a lot of trauma, and his famous quote to do with addiction is not why the addiction, it's why the pain. And that speaks directly to, it's not like why you drinking too much, it's like why is there so much pain that you have to drink so much. So he really goes
Mm-hmm.
into
Yeah.
the emotional reasons and the trauma reasons and the stuff below the challenge. How this relates to health is he has this incredible book called When the Body Says No. And what he found in his research
Mm-hmm.
is that people with health challenges all have really, really iffy boundaries because they can't actually say
Mm-hmm.
no, their bodies get to a point where body has to say no for them. And it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, stop making me a certain way, or stop making me feel a certain way, or having to do a certain thing, or having to put on a mask. And when we do it for long
Yeah.
enough, something in us
Yeah.
kind of snaps and is just like, no. And then we get sick in whatever
Yeah.
capacity that is. And then we're
Yeah.
forced to say no because our body has.
Yeah.
And it's,
Oh yeah, I can so relate to that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's such a big one.
I've actually said that so many times that I'm convinced that's what happened, because I was such a people pleaser, like go getter, like take on 10 tasks at once. And, people around me would be like, you need to slow down, you need to stop. I was like, no, I'm okay, I've got this, and you say yes to things and you say yes to people, and because when you say no, you're selfish, or if you don't do something, then you're lazy, or all of these things. And then I literally just got to the point where I was like, I literally can't, I just can't do it. It doesn't matter how positive I think, it doesn't matter if I journal around it, like none of that made a difference. It was just like, just no. So for me, it was, if I couldn't mentally get myself there, my body literally was like, well, you're stopping whether you like it or not. And that's literally how I got here. But honestly, I'm really grateful that I got sick. I really am, because it's really forced me to reevaluate things and really reevaluate people and what direction I was taking, and what I was saying yes to and what I was saying no to. It's just really put a lot of things into perspective, and it's really shifted my priorities as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's how you look at it. It can definitely be a blessing. And I think, unfortunately, it's one of those things where for a lot of us, we don't really make those drastic changes unless we're forced to in some
Yeah,
capacity.
exactly.
So, and that's why I know you've created your group, and this is why I've created this group, just to sort of give people that space where they can, maybe they can't resonate with what we're going through, what we're sharing, but at least they're learning something. Maybe they are resonating with it and it's a safe space for them, or maybe they're just here to learn something. And who knows, one day something that they see or hear or someone that they meet might be exactly what they need to overcome something. So I think, yeah, just keep sharing and like keep being vulnerable. And like I'm all for spreading a message of it's okay to take a step back. Like instead of saying you've got to go and get this and you've got to do that, it's like, no. If you want to spend your weekend in your pajamas and sleep, then do that. If that's what you need, then do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't make you less
Yeah,
of a person.
really grounding into what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, so important. All right, lovely. Thank you
You're so
so
welcome.
much. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully someone got something good out of that. Let us know if you have any questions. But yeah, we'll have this up on a replay. And yeah, if you guys have anything you'd like to add, or if you'd like to send either one of us a message, please do so. Danny's also got an amazing group, which we can put a link to if you'd like. You can maybe check out some of her work and her content. She's amazing,
Thanks.
which is why she's here. So, but yeah, it's what we're here for, just to create that space. And yeah, hopefully we can inspire you guys in whatever capacity. So
Awesome. I think it's a really nice little collab because my thing's emotional health and yours is more like you're working at the physical health level. So it's really nice to kind of chat from
yeah,
different angles.
yeah,
Yeah. And I would be curious to
absolutely.
hear.
All about
Sorry, off you go.
integrating. I just said it's all about integrating.
Exactly. Yeah. And hence your title, holistically inspired. Yeah. And
Yes.
I'd be interested too for anyone who watches this video and it's not live, because I think for people based in Australia, it's not even work finishing time yet. Is
No.
what everybody else's thoughts are around their experiences of like showing themselves as they are versus shutting
Yes.
themselves down, and the